So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade to get it back to the states. We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. Individual people that have their own agenda, people are very happy with by sacred Washington.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
All right, fact check. Democrats do not believe in execution after birth, and the claim that both sides demanded the end of Roe versus Wade is completely false. In fact, new polling indicates the vast majority of Americans, including nearly half of Republicans, support a federally guaranteed right to abortion.
I'm sorry, mate. Who exactly do you mean by people? Because outside of the Arizona legislators on the Senate floor speaking in tongues,
Let it be so, Father God. Let it be so. Let it be so.
Lord, right now we just release the presence of the Lord in the Senate chamber. We just release the hovering glory of God Almighty in the Senate chamber. We just pray right now, Lord God, over every desk.
most Americans are far from happy, even those getting their news in a vacuum.
Abortion, IVF, playing a role. Democrat running on abortion and IVF access wins the special election in Alabama. Maryland lands flipped a state house seat in the deep red state by 25 percentage points, underscoring the continued political potency of reproductive rights. Don't know if that's a canary in the coal mine, but it is interesting in Alabama. If you look at our poll, Katie, best describes the issues, view on abortion, always legal, 35%, mostly legal, 24%. There you see the breakdown.
That's right, folks, as more draconian measures are implemented across America. The latest being a 160-year-old Arizona abortion ban. That's right, in the year 2024, Republicans are implementing legislation from a time when America was in a civil war, slavery was still allowed, people used horse-drawn buggies and dirt roads to get around, and the railroad system was an innovative and new concept.
Trump did what he promised he would do. He said something about abortion. What he didn't do is tell anyone what he would do about it if he is president again.
Arizona's Supreme Court, a court made up of all Republican appointees, have ruled in a 4-2 decision that physicians are now on notice that all abortions, except those necessary to save a woman's life, are illegal. That decision and the timing is truly stranger than fiction. It happened just a day after Donald Trump said, leave it to the states to make up their minds on abortion. Now, the country has firsthand evidence of what exactly a 50-state patchwork approach to abortion would actually look like. The GOP spent 50 years trying to eradicate Roe versus Wade, but now that they have, the aftermath isn't pleasant. And only now that the electoral consequences of all of this are becoming more clear, Republicans are acknowledging that laws like the one on the books in Arizona simply are not good ones. That Arizona law, it's not just decades old, it is generations old. It is nearly 160 years old.
But sure, let's not talk about any of those medieval policy ideas and instead focus on the age of the incumbent. Can you believe he's wearing hokas? But as it turns out, Donald Trump, so cocooned off from reality in this thick shell of malignant narcissism, choking on the smell of his own nepotism aftershave, believes that Americans are happy with his efforts to overturn Roe, the precedent that helped prevent the likes of what is happening in Arizona from coming to fruition. This despite the fact that almost every poll across the US, even those on Fox News, say the exact opposite.
Move it ahead, though, to the second trimester, and that's where public opinion shifts. Now you've only got 34% who say that abortion in that time frame should be legal in most or all cases. You've got 2/3 basically saying it should be illegal in most or all cases. And then you move to the third trimester and you see an even more dramatic movement there. Less than 20% believe abortion in the third trimester should be legal in most or all cases. 8 out of 10 voters saying it should be illegal in most or all cases.
It is going to show up everywhere, but not just because we have a thirst to win or that we don't care about life, but because the American public is telling us that they care about this issue. And for them, it opens up a whole kettle of fish with reproductive rights, having control over your body. And yes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg did say that it was a privacy decision, and that's why it was 7-2 with conservatives voting for this. But that's how it's appearing also in a lot of these ballot measures. And that's how it should be. It's between you and your doctor to make a smart decision for you and what's also medically best for you. There are women who are suffering in conservative states, being forced to give birth to children that have no chance at a life.
All righty then.
And as we know, polls should be taken with balls of salt. So instead, let's look at elections in which the matter of abortion was on the ballot. Yes, it's never been more evident that Americans are against those extreme abortion measures, which then poses the question, right? Is Trump either that dumb that he just blatantly refuses to see reason here? Or is he simply in denial that he actually believes all those elections are stolen, just as he wrongfully proclaims 2020 was? Either way, it's a disastrous campaign strategy. Truly, it is. And it leads me to say that if somehow, in spite of all this man returns to office, then whatever slither of hope I had in the future of America would take on the visual representation of current day Melania Trump. Utterly hopeless.
But under a Republican majority, we've seen nothing but chaos and extremism since day one of this Congress. The American people are fed up with the nonsense that doesn't help them in any way. On any significant legislation that has actually become law this Congress, it has been bipartisan and passed with Democratic votes in the House. Leader Jeffries and Democrats have always said we will support bipartisan solutions and stand up against extremism. Nowhere is Republican extremism more apparent than with reproductive rights. In this Congress alone, House Republicans have passed 4 bills that would restrict access to reproductive care and introduced an additional 6 anti-abortion bills, including 2 national abortion bans. Republicans contend that the unpopularity of their extreme anti-abortion position is simply a messaging problem, not a policy problem. That if they just talk more about it, then they'll be fine. But let's be clear about what the consequences are of what they're talking about. These bills would outlaw IVF, criminalize doctors for providing critical health care, block reproductive care for our service members, and restrict access to mifepristone nationwide. Their extreme policies have very real, dangerous impacts for millions of women across the country, endangering their lives and their well-being. The evidence is clear. Republicans are on the wrong side of public opinion. Since the Dobbs decision, the American people have protected reproductive freedoms in 7 straight state referendums. They are turning out to defend their rights, and this November, at least 7 more states will likely have abortion measures before the people. In these states are 18 swing districts that will be critical to determining the House majority, and reproductive freedom is guaranteed to be a driving issue. The simple truth is, when abortion rights are on the ballot, people turn out to defend their rights, and Democrats win. Only Democrats support women's right to make their own health care decisions, period. Republicans are simply too extreme for everyday Americans and aren't focused on the priorities of working families.
Because, as has been discussed, Trump is not just running on ideas that may sound outlandish but never become law. He's running on record.
This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. It was really something.
A record that he touts proudly like it was some fake golf championship. He has shown just how disastrous things can become if he's given the opportunity. We're living in it, so let's not allow for a repeat of that nightmare, shall we?
Question. You answered some questions about abortion, but do you think a doctor should be punished who perform abortions?
I'll let that be to the states. You know, everything we're doing now is states and states' rights. And what we wanted to do is get it back to the states, because for 53 years it's been a fight. And now the states are handling it, and some have handled it very well, and the others will end up handling it very well. And those are the things that states are going to make a determination about. Okay?
In 1862, the Confederacy and the Union fought for control of Arizona, and the Union won at the height of the Civil War, when states and territories like Arizona looked something like this. Dirt roads with horse-drawn buggies, and only white men had the right to vote. In 1864, slavery was not yet abolished, and the question of whether the United States would remain united and free was being answered in a war that wouldn't end until 1865, and would result in the deaths of more than 600,000 Americans, 2/3 of whom died from infectious diseases, not artillery fire. And that's because in the 1860s, doctors were still figuring out what germs were. It was not yet common practice for doctors to wash their hands before surgery or when delivering a baby. 1864 was before doctors knew how reproduction worked on a cellular level, with the eggs and the sperm. And it was under those conditions, where basic reproduction was still a mystery, where basic medical protocols were not yet in place, and all men had to be part of something called a posse comitatus. It was under those conditions in 1864 that legislators in the Arizona Territory passed a near total ban on abortion, punishing anyone who performed an abortion with up to 5 years in prison. Today, Arizona's Supreme Court upheld that 160-year-old law.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.